Imagine a company like Amazon or Google raising an army and defeating a ruler, then taking control of that country. Yet something very similar happened in India in 1757 at the Battle of Plassey. Sorry, Battle of Palashi. I have always wondered why we are taught to use such mispronunciations of foreigners, like Diamber for Udayamperu, Visak for Visakhapatnam, and here Plassey for Palashi. Was that battle really just a story of betrayal? As many of us learn in school, let us take a closer look. Bengal was one of the richest regions in the world, but under the rule of Nawab Khan, it faced constant Maratha raids. He was eventually forced to give up Orissa and pay tribute. The wars left Bengal weakened, and to rebuild his kingdom, Alivardi imposed heavy taxes even on the European trading company. Then in 1756, Alivardi Khan died. His heir Siraj-ud-Daulah became Nawab. Siraj was determined to keep foreign influence in check. Soon, these tensions would lead to war. Siraj-ud-Daulah was alarmed by the growing power of Europeans, especially the British. When the British refused his order to stop fortifying the settlements, he attacked Kolkata in 1756 and captured Fort William with ease. After the victory, many of British soldiers were confined overnight in a small room, and many of them died due to heat and suffocation. The incident, later known as the Black Hole of Calcutta, outraged the British and strengthened their determination to retaliate. Determined to retake Kolkata, East India Company chose one of its most efficient officers, Major Robert Clive. In December 1756, Clive sailed up the Hooghly River with a force of about 600 British soldiers and 900 Indian sepoys, ready to challenge the Nawab of Bengal. On their way to Kolkata stood the fort of Bach. According to a popular story, a drunken British sailor accidentally wandered into the fort at night and sparked a chaotic attack that helped capture it. With the fort out of the way, Clive's fleet pushed onward and bombarded Calcutta. By January 1757, the Nawab's forces had abandoned the city, allowing the British to retake what was now little more than a ruined trading port. Then, to reclaim Kolkata, Siraj-ud-Daulah marched to south with an army nearly 40,000 men. But Robert Clive struck first. Under the cover of darkness and thick fog, he launched a surprise attack on Nawab's camp. Confusion erupted as soldiers fired blindly. Horses bolted and elephants stampeded through the chaos. Although the casualty was relatively small, but the psychological impact was enormous. Shaken by the attack, Siraj agreed to negotiate. On 9th February 1757, the Treaty of Alinagar was signed, temporarily restoring the peace between Bengal and the East Indian Company. The Treaty of Alinagar restored peace, but only briefly. With Calcutta secured, British turned their attention to their old rivals, the French. In March 1757, they attacked the French settlement of Chandranagar, angering Siraj-ud-Daulah, who viewed it as a violation of their recent treaty. As tension rose, Siraj began seeking help from the French against the British, but an even greater threat was growing inside his own court. Led by his uncle Mir Jafar, a group of conspirators secretly plotted to overthrow the Nawab. When Robert Clive learned of the plot, he seized the opportunity and struck a deal with the conspirators, setting the stage for the Battle of Palashi. With a secret alliance secured, Robert Clive marched towards a final confrontation with Siraj-ud-Daulah. Neither side realized it then, but the coming battle would shape the future of India. The two armies met at Palashi on 23rd June 1757. Clive commanded around 3,000 men, while Siraj's army numbered more than 60,000, supported by powerful artillery, cavalry, war elephants, and even a small French contingent. Looking at the numbers alone, Siraj's victory seems almost certain, but the numbers alone did not tell the whole story. Much of Siraj's army was under the influence of Mir Jafar, whose loyalty remained uncertain. As dawn broke, the battle began. The French and Bengali artillery opened fire, while Clive's smaller force took position inside a mango grove. Facing heavy bombardment, the British withdrew deeper into the grove, where the trees, mud walls, and ditches provided excellent cover. For hours, both sides exchanged cannon fire. Yet Mir Jafar and his troops remained strangely inactive, waiting and watching as the battle unfolded. Then fate intervened. A sudden rainstorm swept across the battlefield, soaking the Bengali gunpowder and silencing many of their cannons. The British, however, had protected their ammunition under tarpaulins. As the rain fell, Clive's artillery continued firing while much of the Nawab's army struggled to respond. What had been a deadlocked battle suddenly began to tilt in the British favor. Believing the British had exhausted their ammunition, Siraj's loyal commander Mir led a cavalry charge against their position. It proved to be a fatal mistake. As he advanced, he was struck and mortally wounded by British cannon fire. The loss of one of his most trusted general was a severe blow to Siraj. Desperate, he turned to Mir Jafar and pleaded for support. Jafar promised to help, but had no intention of keeping his word. As Siraj struggled to recover from the loss of Mir another conspirator, Rai urged him to retreat. Surrounded by uncertainty and betrayal, Siraj agreed and ordered his force to withdraw. At the same time, Mir Jafar sent a word to Clive that encouraging him to attack. The message never reached the British, but by then the Nawab's army was already beginning to fall apart from within. Sensing the Nawab's army was losing the momentum, British seized the opportunity and one Major Kilpatrick led attack against the exposed French artillery. Soon Clive also joined with them. After a fierce battle, French were forced to retreat. At the same time, Mir Jafar began moving his troops toward the British side. Ironically, the British did not yet realize that the approaching force belonged to their secret ally. Mistaking Mir Jafar's troops for enemy reinforcements, Clive sent soldiers to intercept them. After coming under British fire, Jafar halted his advance and waited. By now, the battle was slipping away from Siraj, while a handful of loyal troops were only continued to resist, and many others began to leave the battlefield under the influence of Mir Jafar and other conspirators. As the British advanced, the remaining Bengali and French forces fought desperately to slow them down. But the momentum had clearly shifted in Clive's favor. In the final stage of battle, Clive launched a decisive attack. While Major Aircourt captured the hillock, the rest of the British forces stormed the French position. Unable to hold their ground, the French retreated, and Siraj's remaining loyal troops broke and fled. And the Battle of Palashi was over. Against the overwhelming odds, the East Indian Company has emerged victorious. Soon after, Mir Jafar arrived at the British camp, where he was proclaimed the new Nawab of Bengal. Siraj-ud-Daulah fled the battlefield in disguise, but was soon captured and executed. Although Mir Jafar was rewarded with the throne of Bengal, he quickly discovered that the British were not allies he could control. When he later tried to seek support from the Dutch, the British defeated them and eventually removed Mir Jafar as well. The British also defeated their French rivals, leaving the East India Company as the dominant European power in India. What had begun as a trading company now becoming as a political power, one that could make and unmake rulers at will. And Battle of Plassey marked as the beginning of British dominance in India. Thank you for watching. My commentary will continue in another chapter of history.